Hello students. Today, we're going to talk about the important themes of a very famous poem called The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This is a satirical poem. A satirical poem uses humor to make fun of certain issues or behaviors to teach people. The poem was written in the early 18th century, in 1712. At that time, people had different lifestyles and social values than today's. Alexander Pope uses this poem to highlight those differences and some funny or strange things people cared about. Before we dive into the themes of The Rape of the Lock, let's go over some background information so we can fully understand why this poem was written. This will help you grasp the themes better. Background and context. The poem, The Rape of the Lock, is based on a true event. A man named Lord Petre cut off a lock of hair from a young woman named Arabella Fermor without her permission. At that time, cutting a hairlock was considered a serious matter. It was a symbol of beauty and personal dignity, and taking it without permission was considered a violation of that person's honor. This event caused a big argument between their two families. Alexander Pope wrote this humorous poem to calm things down and make people laugh at the situation rather than be angry. The word rape in the title does not mean what it does today. In Pope's time, it could also mean to take something forcefully or to snatch. So, the rape of the lock means the snatching of the lock of hair. Alexander Pope uses this incident to discuss several themes that help us understand the society of that time and how people behaved or valued things. The poem uses characters, magical creatures, and funny descriptions to make its points lightheartedly. Let's go through each theme one by one so you can fully understand them. Vanity and superficiality. One of the major themes in The Rape of the Lock is vanity. It means being overly proud of one's looks or superficiality, which is caring too much about things only on the surface. In the poem, we see how much Belinda, the main female character, cares about her appearance. She spends a lot of time dressing up and putting on makeup. Pope describes her getting ready for a party as if she is preparing for a battle. Belinda even has a team of small, magical creatures called sylphs who help her look beautiful. Sylphs are tiny spirits who protect her beauty and help her keep her curls in place. Belinda's obsession with her looks and her lock of hair shows us how important beauty was for women in society at that time. Alexander Pope does not criticize beauty but rather the importance people place on it. In other words, he shows us that people can sometimes care too much about their appearance, which may not be the most important thing in life. For example, Belinda is very upset when her hairlock is cut off. She feels as if her whole honor and pride have been damaged just because of a single lock of hair. This makes us think, is it really worth getting so upset over something so small? Alexander Pope uses this to show how people can become overly focused on things that are not really important, like physical beauty. Pope wants readers to realize that taking care of one's appearance is fine, but putting too much value on it can be silly. He shows us that we should not let our looks define our worth. This theme helps us understand that we must focus on more important qualities, like kindness, honesty, and intelligence, instead of just outer beauty. The triviality of high society. Another theme in The Rape of the Lock is the triviality, or unimportance, of high society's concerns. Pope uses Belinda and her friends to show how people in the upper class often care too much about things that don't really matter. In the poem, we see that Belinda and her friends gossip, play card games, attend parties, and focus on things like fashion and appearances. These are not serious matters. They are not thinking about the world, other people, or important issues. Alexander Pope shows us that people in high society often ignore important things because they are too focused on having fun or showing off their wealth and beauty. For example, the card game they play in the poem is described as if it's a grand battle. Pope uses dramatic language to make the card game seem important, even though we know it's just a game. This contrast helps us understand that the poet is making fun of high society. He's saying that they treat small, unimportant things like games as if they are serious and meaningful. Alexander Pope wants to teach us that focusing only on shallow things like games, beauty, and parties can make us forget what's really important in life. We should not let ourselves get caught up in the unimportant details and lose sight of what truly matters. Gender roles and expectations. The poem also explores gender roles, which means the expectations and roles society has for men and women. In Pope's time, women were expected to be beautiful and charming and to focus on their appearance. Men, on the other hand, were seen as stronger and more aggressive. In The Rape of the Lock, Pope plays with these gender roles and sometimes exaggerates them to show us how society expects women to behave. Belinda represents the ideal woman of her time. She is beautiful, delicate, and concerned with fashion. However, the poet also shows us that these expectations are limiting. Women were not encouraged to be ambitious, intelligent, or independent. Instead, they were mainly valued for their looks. On the other hand, we have the Baron, the character who cuts off Belinda's lock of hair. He is bold and daring, and he thinks that cutting Belinda's hair will somehow give him power or make him look strong. Through this theme, the poet encourages us to question society's expectations. Why should women only focus on beauty? Why should men try to be strong and aggressive? The poet indirectly asks these questions through the poem. By exploring gender roles, he shows us that both men and women can be limited by the roles society places on them. The conflict between appearance and reality. Another theme is the conflict between appearance and reality. This means that sometimes things look one way on the surface but are actually very different underneath. In the poem, everything looks glamorous and beautiful. Belinda's world seems perfect, full of luxury, beauty, and fun. But underneath all this glamour, we see a lot of vanity, triviality, and shallow values. The poet uses this theme to show us that just because something looks good doesn't mean it is actually good or necessary. For example, the lock of hair that is cut off is described in very beautiful and grand language, as if it is something magical. However, in reality, it is just a piece of hair. This shows us how people can exaggerate the importance of things that don't really matter. The poet is trying to tell us that we should look beyond appearances and focus on what is real and meaningful. This theme teaches us not to be fooled by appearances. The poet encourages us to think critically and look deeper to find the true meaning behind things. He shows us that outer beauty and glamour can sometimes hide shallow or even foolish values. Honor and reputation. The theme of honor and reputation is very important in The Rape of the Lock. In the poem, a woman's honor is closely linked to her beauty and reputation. When Belinda's lock of hair is cut off, it's not just about the hair but about her honor and reputation. In the 18th century, a woman's honor was very important, especially in high society. Losing her honor, even in a small way, could ruin her reputation. Belinda feels that the loss of her lock of hair is like an attack on her personal honor. It shows how society placed a lot of pressure on women to protect their reputation and be seen as respectable. However, Alexander Pope also shows that this idea of honor can be exaggerated. After all, it's just a lock of hair, but everyone treats it like a huge tragedy. Pope uses this theme to make fun of society's rigid rules and shows us that sometimes people take these rules too seriously. Through this theme, the poet asks us to think about what really matters when it comes to honor and reputation. He asks us to question whether we are sometimes too concerned with what others think and whether some of these rules are worth following. This theme teaches us to consider whether reputation should be based on real character, not just on appearances or social rules. Conclusion. To sum up, The Rape of the Lock, by Alexander Pope explores several important themes. These themes include vanity and superficiality, the triviality of high society, gender roles and expectations, the conflict between appearance and reality, and honor and reputation. Through these themes, the poet makes us laugh but also think. He shows us that while beauty, social status, and reputation are part of life, they shouldn't be the most important things. Instead, we should look beyond appearances, question society's rules, and focus on what truly matters. Thank you for watching this explainer on the themes of The Rape of the Lock. Remember, understanding these themes will help you see the deeper meaning behind Pope's humorous poem. Good luck with your studies, and don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any.